What's going on, guys? My name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel. Today, Dwarves of the Mwangi Expanse, as I continue to dig through Lost Omens, the Mwangi Expanse, and find more and more cool stuff that I'm just, really excited to read about and share with y'all. So, remember, if you're liking what you're seeing, do like, subscribe, and ding the bell. Stay caught up on all your stuff. For now, let's dive in. Okie dokie. So, with the Dwarves of the Mwangi Expanse, we're seeing something that we haven't really seen in Dwarven culture. Well, God, I can't even say that. We're seeing a lot of things we haven't seen, both in terms of Golarion, and though I don't know every fantasy setting as well as others, seemingly in fantasy at large. The Dwarves of the Mwangi Expanse go against trope, and while that's not as important as, say, for the Mwangi, given the general problematic nature of the way orcs were written in the past, don't know what the heck the Mwangi are? Follow this card right up here. It still presents unique and interesting options, which I think every new big book that a major company is putting out should do. Let's start with the Mbeke. Really, there's no better way to do it than to start with a little bit of fiction within the fiction. Their story, directly out of Lost Omens, the Mwangi Expanse. Strap in, kids. Long ago, dwarves marched upwards on a quest for sky. They saw many wondrous things on that march. Temples and treasures, magics and mysteries. One group of dwarves, who would later become Mbekes, finally emerged in a sheltered valley. They looked about the rocky sides of the valley, and they looked at the great blue thing above, and mistook it for just one more cavern, if perhaps larger than most. Sages stroked their beards, and engineers hefted their tools, and the dwarves set about breaching the vault of the sky. They climbed the tallest mountain in the land, braced the sky properly, and started digging. Dwarves, of course, can dig through anything, and so quite soon, they broke through the sky into the plane of air. Which you literally can do. That's one of the ways to get there in Pathfinder. I digress. The people of the air were greatly surprised by these strangers. First, a great hurricane spirit tried to chase the dwarves away. But the dwarves had fought worse beneath the earth and were not cowed. Then a great Jinni of the west wind offered the dwarves fine treasures to leave, but nothing matched the wonders the dwarves made themselves. Finally, a curious cloud dragon asked what in the 7 stars above and 3 stars below the dwarves were doing. Once they understood their mistake, the dwarves descended back to Golarion and looked about the valley from which they emerged. They could most certainly make a home there, and did. And ever since, Mbekes have been good friends with cloud dragons. I'm not sure exactly who amongst the many wonderful authors in Lost Omens Mwangi Expanse wrote that, but that's So far as their history goes, the Mbeke emerged from the Darklands as other dwarves did, in particular them in the Turwa uplands of the Mwangi Expanse, which were already inhabited by a large clan of cloud dragons. Scholars believe that the two groups initially clashed over territory, and eventually conflict gave way to stalemate. Eventually, stalemate gave way to peace. Eventually, that turned into long-lasting partnership and integration. Cloud dragons have become a very large part of Mbeke life, ritual, identity, so on and so forth. From their sky citadel, Cloudspire, all the way out to the various settlements throughout the uplands that they have indeed founded for mining, farming, crafting, and trading and stuff, they live peacefully with their draconic allies, which is very helpful, given that the Mbeke's most potent foe, at least recently, has been the Pirates of the Shackles. The Mbeke are a modern urban realm, and so trade is the backbone on which they function, and pirates like to take from people who do that, so 1 and 1 makes 2 there. Over the course of several Corsair wars, small skirmishes between slower dwarven vessels and Corsair ships have turned into big naval fights, which are a lot easier to fight when, you have friends who can fly escort and vomit lightning down at the bad guys. Though the third Corsair War, which is actively shaping up now, is shaping up to be the most bloody, given that Sargava no longer exists to pay the pirates protection money, meaning pirate purses are lighter, meaning raids are stepping up. Something else I really like about the Mbeke, which I had missed on my first pass, but I'm literally only seeing now as I go back and check as I record this video. As one might imagine, dragons being so, prevalent in their culture, it would also influence the way in which they fight. Everything from mages preferring lightning to other things, your sages looking at the stars, but most importantly, archers. an archery tradition known as Gimthur. It involves infusing the wind into arrows so they can fly around corners, across valleys, so on and so forth. My next dwarven eldritch archer, clearly. Second up today, the Taralu. The most stereotype defying of everything I've read so far, though I think the farther I dig into this book at large, the more we'll uncover. A long, long time ago, the Taralu dwarves dwelled between Nex and Geb. You know, those two angry mages that like to do angry magic at one another. As that conflict grew more and more unstable, and as both sides were looking for mercenaries in the conflict, the Taralu, who, again, caught literally in the middle, gathered a council to try to figure out what the heck they were going to do about it. 16 clans debated for 4 days, breaking literally only to rest. On the night of the 4th day, their debate was interrupted by a wounded ancient cloud dragon who'd crash-landed outside their front door, being caught in the magical crossfire outside. The dragon had been planning on wandering for most of its existence, but now wounded, wanted nothing more than to return home. The dragon begged the dwarves to bring them to a jungle lowland where the fog was as peaceful as the clouds, and one by one the 16 clans agreed to do so, leaving home in grand caravans, and over the course of 4 years hauled this dragon along the mountain range, through the jungle, and eventually to its home. They buried the dragon and then swore that day to never squabble and war without cause, to never repeat the mistakes they'd seen before. Not an oath of pacifism, patience can't be infinite, but they did swear to not act rashly and horribly. They built a monument on the site, a monument they still pilgrimage to, and present day the Taralu dwarves exist as nomadic diplomats. The Taralu literally travel the Mwangi Expanse, offering their counsel, their wisdom to the various factions within. The Taralu are very interesting, and I'm biased here, in and of the fact that they dye their hair on a pretty regular basis to match the sky in reverence of this sky dragon. They feel very like sky dragon kobolds. You stick to a dragon long enough, orient your life around this thing. Obviously, it's going to seep into your culture. And that worship of dragons has led to, in fact, a new sorcerer bloodline that we see in this book, the Worm-Blessed bloodline. Choosing this bloodline gives you access to the divine spell list, intimidation and religion as divine skills. I could have seen that being diplomacy given the nature of the Taralu, but sure. Read Aura as your granted cantrip, Mage Armor at 1st level, Resist Energy at 2nd level, Haste at 3rd, Reflective Scales at 4th, Cloak of Colors at 5th, Repulsion at 6th, Mask of Terror at 7th, Divine Inspiration at 8th, Overwhelming Presence at 9th. The same bloodline spells as the Draconic bloodline, the Blood Magic effect, either a +1 status bonus to intimidation checks, or a target takes a -1 status penalty to will saves for a round. In addition, Tommy is very happy to see this. At 1st level, you now have access by being written in without having to ask your GM to house rule it. Dragons other than metallic and chromatic. Everything that's been released in 2E so far. That's metallic, chromatic, primal, imperial, and breath weapons that function in a burst, not just cones and lines, as well as the Sovereign doing mental damage, the Forest Dragon doing piercing damage. It is about time. So yeah, I really like both of these a lot. Again, they're very trope subversive as far as your standard issue dwarves go. They directly tie in a dragon type we don't often talk about, and you get to have cool colored hair. What more do you want? I don't know. That's all the time I have. What do we think? Are we rolling these up? Are we wishing we were better at dyeing our hair so we could have cool, sky patterns and things like this art? Yeah, me too. Thank you guys, as always, so much for watching. We'll see you next time.